Part 101. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1001. Chapter 1001 I won the bet. Yu Lingfeng received a text message from Rong Ci, a few very short words, I won the bet. Yu Lingfeng put down her phone and walked towards Xia Ying. With a stern face, she said to Xia Ying, the shadow hunter agreed to help find Fanyan. Xia Ying was reading a magazine at the moment, and the page she turned to happened to be an interview with Qian Yin's. Today is the annual review, and Qian Yin's is the most promising one in the list of candidates for the national male god. If anyone has the ability to unseat Jun Chenai, who has dominated the rankings for many years, that person is Qian Yin's. Qian Yin's has no negative news, and his character is also likable. In addition, he is gay, and he has somehow attracted a group of Fujoshi fans. Qian Yin's is now the most popular one in fan fiction. Figure. Xia Ying was stunned for a long time when she heard Yu Lingfeng's words, then she frowned and asked, but according to the usual style of shadow hunters, how can they help? The other party is Kincha, not someone to be trifled with. It's not a good thing to offend Kincha's people. So, our previous guess was correct. Xia Ying opened her eyes wide and said word by word, in other words, is the master behind Kincha really Rong Ci's biological father? Otherwise, they would not care about Rong Ci's life or death. Yu Lingfeng continued, Rong Ci gambled with his life because he held such a possibility. There are so many masters of Kincha, not to mention Rong Kai, even Yu Lingfeng can escape unscathed if he goes in. Based on this, Rong Ci could only seek help from shadow hunters. Only shadow hunters had the qualifications to fight Kincha. I hope everything goes well. Xia Ying said silently and lowered her eyes. There is a hint of sadness. At this moment, inside Kincha, Blood Peach Enchantress has almost exhausted all methods, but still can't get any useful information from Fanyan. She has no way to restore her memory, and there is no way for her to recall the art of refining goo. In this case, Fanyan is just a useless body to her. Hami Melon saw all the hard work the Blood Peach Enchantress had tried during this period, and he didn't know how many times he had tried to persuade her. However, if the Blood Peach Enchantress was so easy to be persuaded, she would not be the Blood Peach Enchantress. Damn it, did this woman do it on purpose? Hamagiwa was going to check on the Blood Peach Demon Queen and tell her something. By chance, he saw the Blood Peach Demon Girl getting angry. She smashed her $1 million tea set into pieces and threw them all at Fanyan, who was huddled and shivering under the table. Fanyan crouched down, hugging his knees, his face was horrified, his lips turned pale because of fear, his arms were scratched by fragments, and blood was still flowing out. Hami Melon quickly stepped forward and blocked the teapot that the Blood Peach Enchantress almost threw at Fanyan's head. Cantaloupe, what are you doing? The Blood Peach Enchantress's eyes were red with anger and she had lost her mind. Beautiful queen, calm down. Hamagiwa said with relief, if he hadn't appeared in time to stop the flying teapot, if it had landed on Fanyan's head, she would have been mutilated at this moment. Fanyan was frightened, hugging his knees, burying his head in them, sobbing silently. Hami Melon looked back at Fanyan's situation and felt soft. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1002. Chapter 1002 Who is that woman? What are you calming down about? That woman is a waste. Instead of living cowardly like a maggot, it would be better for me to end her directly. The Blood Peach Enchantress said as she prepared to kill Fanyan directly. Hami Melon intercepted the Blood Peach Fairy Girl's arm, you can't kill this person, please calm down. Blood Peach Enchantress glanced sideways at Cantaloupe, why can't you kill him? I brought him back. She, the Blood Peach Fairy Queen, has been traveling around the world for so many years. In her eyes, people are only divided into two types, those who want to kill and those who don't want to kill. There has never been an option of not being able to kill. The helper wants her. Hami Melon said with a straight face. Blood Peach Fairy's sullen face darkened, and she asked in confusion, "What do you mean, what do you want this woman to do?" "In the deal with the Shadow Hunters, we handed this woman over to them, and they promised that they would never interfere in any mission we interfere with in the future, and if we encounter it by chance, they would give it up." Blood Peach Enchantress narrowed her eyes and looked at Fanyan, who was still shivering and ignorant. "What is that woman's background? Hasn't she been removed from the Shadow Hunter list? The Shadow Hunter actually offered such a big bargaining chip in exchange for her. If she said she was an ordinary person, no one would believe it." "I don't know," but the gang leader agreed, "so not only can you not touch this person, but you also have to clean it up and send it over." The Blood Peach Enchantress let out a disdainful and cold humph, then she turned away and didn't look at all this. Cantaloupe walked towards Fanyan, preparing to take her out. Maybe it was because she had received too much coercion, inducement, and intimidation while following the Blood Peach Enchantress. Now the Sanskrit, Hami Melon, and even a word to her can make her yell. "Don't come over here, don't come over here." Fanyan raised his voice and said in horror. Hami Melon frowned and turned to look at the Blood Peach Enchantress. "What did you do to her?" The Blood Peach Enchantress had a cold face. "I just used various methods to restore her memory." "Who would have thought that this person is a dead fish with no memory at all? She can't remember it at all. Shadow Hunters are top-notch at interfering with memory. Now that they've been destroyed, it's not that easy to remember," Hami Melon said lightly. Then he comforted Fanyan in a soft voice and asked her to come out and follow him. "It's no use being like this," the Blood Peach Enchantress said sternly, and then got angry at Sanskrit. "If you don't come out again, I'll whip you with a whip." As soon as the Blood Peach Enchantress finished speaking, she took the bullwhip that had been placed aside and whipped it violently on Fanyan's side. The sound of the whip hitting the furniture was extremely loud and harsh. When Fanyan heard the sound, he instinctively shrank back, then covered his ears and screamed in surprise. The voice was hoarse and pitiful, like a beast that had been imprisoned for thousands of years in and was being tortured by a mountain of knives and a pan of oil. Just listening to such screams, Hamigu felt that his heart was clenched. He could imagine how the Blood Peach Enchantress, a person with no humanity at all, had been tortured by Sanskrit sounds these days, so that she became so frightened when she heard the sound of whips. After a while, Fanyan weakly walked out, and when she walked to the light, Hamigua could clearly see her exposed skin, which was already and tortured. Hami Melon couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 1003. Chapter 1003. She is dead. Hamiguo felt that if he had come a little later, he might not be able to see Sanskrit. "Take her away," Blood Peach Enchantress said reluctantly and rolled her eyes at Fanyan. "I took that man away," Hami Melon said, then looked back at Sanskrit and comforted him softly. "Don't be afraid, you will be free soon." The Blood Peach Enchantress on the side snorted disdainfully. In the evening, Rong Si came home exhausted. Just when he opened the door and was about to turn on the light, he suddenly felt someone hugging him behind him. The moment Rong Si's nose smelled that familiar smell, his eye circles immediately turned red. It's the Sanskrit sound, it's the Sanskrit sound, it's the Sanskrit sound that he thinks about in his heart. Rong Si held the cold little hands, then turned around and hugged Fanyan into his arms. Rong Si hugged her tightly, as if he wanted to rub her into his own flesh and blood. Rong Si felt that somewhere in his heart was getting more and more wet, and the little man in his arms was trembling. Rong Si felt that his heart was about to melt. "Rong Si, I thought I would never see you again. The Sanskrit's voice had a strong crying tone, and Rongsi's heart ached when he heard it. I'm sorry, I didn't protect you well. Fanyan didn't say anything, he just kept crying while holding Rongkai in his arms. Rongsi reached out and gently stroked Fanyan's hair. Rongkai reached out and turned on the light, only to see the whip marks all over Fanyan's body. Rongsi's pupils dilated, and his heart felt like it was being fried in a frying pan. Rongsi felt that she didn't even have the courage to speak. She actually suffered such torture when she was not with Fanyan. Sanskrit, who did it? When Rongsi spoke, his voice trembled. It doesn't matter what words you use, that person has already received the punishment he deserves. When Fanyan said this, his pupils were darkened, showing a scary look. Rongsi looked at Fanyan's cold face and frowned. What did you say? Rongsi suddenly felt that the Sanskrit in front of her was different. She seemed to have recovered her memory, and it was no longer the helpless Sanskrit she had before leaving her. Nothing, Rongsi, how did you do it? Shadow Hunter, why did you agree to help me? Fanyan couldn't believe the fact when he learned that Rongsi asked the Shadow Hunter to make a deal with Kincha to replace him. Whether they are Shadow Hunters or other killer organizations, they are all famous for their ruthlessness. There is no way he would do such a thing that harms the interests of his organization because of a killer who has been removed from his company. This is not important anymore. Rongsi smiled faintly, have you recovered your memory? Fanyan nodded with a cold face, it's all thanks to that woman. That woman. The words are puzzled, who is it? It's the woman who turned me into such a virtuous woman. When Sanskrit said this, there was no emotion in his pupils. Rongsi could recognize it immediately, it was the look in Fanyan's eyes when he was still a shadow hunter. Bloodthirsty, cold, without any emotion or warmth at all. Who is she, where is she? Rongsi's hand hanging by his side was clenched into a tight fist, making a gurgling sound. She is dead. The next day, Hami Guo found that the Blood Peach Demon Queen had been staying in her room and did not come out for breakfast, so he planned to go and see her. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1004. Chapter 1004 Rongsi, I like you. Blood Peach Enchantress is a proud and arrogant person. She told Cantaloupe that she wanted to kill the witch Sanskrit. But before she knew the secret of her goo refining, and before she killed Fanyan, she was forcibly taken away by the organization. Such humiliation was the most intolerable for the Blood Peach Demon Queen, so Hami Guo thought that it was probably for this reason that the Blood Peach Demon Princess was so depressed that she locked herself in the room and did not eat breakfast. However, what Hamaguwa never expected was that when he opened the door, what he saw was the corpse of the Blood Peach Fairy Lady. Even Hamaguwa, who had seen so many corpses, was so frightened that he took a few steps back. But when he came closer again, it was not that he was dazzled, but that the death was truly tragic and he couldn't bear to look directly at it. The Blood Peach Enchantress is dead. From the looks of it, she must have died last night. The blood stains on the ground have stopped moving and have begun to change color and solidify. Blood Peach Enchantress is the fourth top killer in the killer rankings, and not many people can kill her. Cantaloupe didn't need to think too much to know that it was Fanyan who left Kincha yesterday who did it. It's just that her memory has not been restored, hasn't it? Could it be that she was just pretending and looking for an opportunity to take action? Hami Melon is confused, completely confused. The news of the sudden death of the Blood Peach Demon Queen immediately spread throughout the killer world. In recent times, the top 10 killers on the killer list have been killed one after another, which has triggered panic in the killer world. Because of this, the gang leader of Kincha formed a deep grudge with the Shadow Hunter. It was a friendly deal, but in the end, Kincha's front killer Shwe Peach Demon Girl was killed. Such shame was naturally intolerable to Kincha. Telling it to others would only make people laugh at them for Kincha's incompetence and stupidity. That's all. Rong Si naturally knew the news. Today, Fanyan is jointly pursued by people on the road. Kincha has an order, and the head on the neck of the witch Fanyan is worth $10 million. So many people came to trouble Fanyan for this money. But the result was just a few more lives on Fanyan's hands. The memory of Sanskrit gradually began to revive on the day he left Kincha. This was probably God's will. When she left Kincha, she recovered her memory and remembered the insult the Blood Peach Fairy had given her during this period, so she killed her without hesitation. Watching your prey die bit by bit in front of your eyes is such a refreshing feeling. Fanyan likes that bloodthirsty feeling so much. However, killing someone is satisfying for a while, but the consequences that follow one after another are extremely heavy. The Brahma didn't want to drag Rong Si. Those people couldn't kill her, and they were likely to start with Rong's body. So, late one night, Fanyan came to Rongkai's room, pressed a gentle kiss on Rongkai's forehead, and finally said to Rongkai with tears the words that had been imprisoned in her heart for many years, "Rongkai, I like you. But we are destined not to be together. You must be happy, very happy, and you must, don't forget me." After Fanyan said these words, he cut off a strand of his hair, tied it with a red rope, and placed it in Rongkai's hand. Finally, he raised his head, forced himself to shed tears back into his eyes, and left reluctantly. However, Fanyan did not expect that he would encounter a group of shadow hunters just a few steps away. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1005. Chapter 1005 is just a chess piece being exploited. Fanyan twitched the corners of his lips and said disdainfully, "What are you doing here? You must know that together, you are no match for me. We are not here to kill you." The leader said coldly, "We are here to convey the master's order. Which, if you want to survive, you must never come to Rong Si again in your life. Otherwise, we will not care about friendship and kill you directly." Your Sangian knows that their shadow hunters can do it. No matter how loyal she was to the organization in the past years, and how many arduous tasks she had completed for the organization, when she was a shadow hunter, she had always lived a life of licking blood from the tip of a knife. But the organization never remembered her at all. If they said they didn't want her, they wouldn't want her anymore. No, actually, she never really belonged to the Shadow Hunters organization. She is obviously the most capable and has made the greatest contribution to the organization. But she has never had a brand of her own, and she has never been recognized by the Shadow Hunter organization. So, even if the organization rescued her once because of Rong Si, it was not at all based on past feelings. Now, she naturally believed him when he said he wanted to kill her. Moreover, her head is worth $10 million. I won't go to him again. When Fanyan said this, he smiled coldly, as if talking to himself, as if he was secretly making some promise. Perhaps, after leaving Rong Si, she should not have appeared again. Her appearance is nothing more than a burden and obstacle to Rong Si. It's good that you know. At this time, the man threw another lockbox at Fanyan. There is $1 million in it, which is enough for your future life. You can find a place, stay anonymous, and stay safe. Fanyan twitched the corner of his mouth and said sarcastically, "I'm afraid this final pension is just for Rong Si's sake." The group of people remained silent and just thought she was a madman talking nonsense. "Who is Rong Si?" Fanyan sneered twice. "The master picked me back from the beggar pile because of my relationship with Rong Si. So from beginning to end, I was just a human being. A chess piece being used. I have no value at all now." She didn't understand all this until now. The place that I thought was a warm haven and my home is also a cold prison. When she has no use value, she will be released upon expiration of her term and continue her wandering life that no one cares about. At the beginning, I thought I had found someone to rely on in my life. She was a person who was afraid of blood. Later, under the training of shadow hunters, she became a killing machine. When she committed a murder for the first time, she cried for days and nights until her eyes were swollen from crying. Later, she kept praying for him in the days that followed. Later on, she could kill a group of people without blinking an eye. This is all brought to her by the shadow hunter. She even fell in love with the feeling of killing. Seeing a living life slowly withering in front of her eyes made her even more happy. There has never been a place for her in this world. She was a person who should not exist from the beginning. Ronkai is her only concern in the world. So the reason why she is alive now is just because she wants to see Rong Ci be happy. When Rong Ci gradually forgets about her, falls in love with someone else, and only feels sad for a while when he thinks of her, that will be the time when she leaves this world. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1006. Chapter 1006. He will never see her again. Rong Ci was woken up by the first ray of sunlight shining through the gap in the curtains in front of the window in the morning. Rong Ci turned over and rubbed his sleepy eyes, and suddenly felt a ball of fluffy stuff in his hands. Rong Ci brought it to his eyes and saw the broken hair tied with a red string, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat and sank. Rong Ci suddenly stood up from the bed and ran towards Fanyan's room without even having time to put on his slippers. Rong Ci opened the door, and sure enough, the bed was empty. The quilt was folded neatly and placed there. The sheets were neat without any wrinkles. When Rong Ci walked closer, the surrounding things were placed as they were, like no one has ever lived the same. Rong Ci stretched out his hand and covered it with the sheets. There was no warmth at all, indicating that the master had been away for a long time. Rong Ci was in a daze for a moment, and his eyes gradually began to become moist. Rong Ci spread his hands and looked at the black hair. Lowering his head and taking a sip, he found that the fragrance of the Sanskrit music was still there. Rong Ci remembered that before going to bed last night, Fanyan suddenly hugged him from behind and said that he hoped they would never be separated. At that time, Rong Ci only thought that it was an ordinary regret, because he himself thought so all the time, but Rong Ci never thought that those words of Fanyan would actually become a farewell. She left him, and just like that time, he never saw her again as soon as he got up. At that time, the young Rong Ci searched for her all over the world, crying until his eyes were red, but she never appeared again. Rong Ci thought that this time, they could finally live forever, but she still left. After leaving this time, Rong Ci felt that he would never see her again. Rong Ci collapsed on the ground, crying like he did when Fanyan left him for the first time. The people of the Jun family never expected that Jun Chennai, who was already a loser in their eyes, would actually become successful in this year when he first entered the workplace. Jun Chennai was selected as one of the top 10 young entrepreneurs of the year by a well-known business magazine, and he was also the most promising entrepreneur of the year. What is even more dramatic is that Jun Xianyan, who has been on the list every year in the past, did not enter the list for the first time this year due to business losses. Jun Xianyan is also a business wizard. When he first started doing business, he broke many records in the industry and set new records every year. He was well received by the industry and ranked at the top of major lists every year. Jun Xianyan was even called a business wizard. But now, after Jun Chennai stepped into the world, this prodigy was beaten to death on the beach by his back wave, and he was unable to recover. Jun Xianyan lost his temper in his office and threw the magazine out the door, almost hitting his assistant. The secretaries and assistants in the office all looked timid and did not dare to say anything. Jun Xianyan is a man who doesn't get angry easily because he has always had a smooth business life, but if he does get angry, the effect will be comparable to a volcano erupting. The assistant and secretary's hearts were in their throats. They didn't dare to say anything. Even when they looked up at Jun Xianyan, they did so furtively. It's ridiculous, how did that Jun Chennai do it? He must have used some despicable means. Don't think I don't know. How arrogant is he? End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1007. Chapter 1007. Jun Xianyan is the proud man of heaven. Jun Xianyan was born with a golden spoon in his mouth since he was a child. In addition, he has always been the object of others' bragging. He couldn't bear the slightest grievance, let alone being bullied by others. Especially, that person was Jun Chennai. Jun Chennai, whom he had looked down on since he was a child, had always been responsible for the heir to the Jun family. Why is it Jun Chennai? They are both descendants of the Jun family. He is no worse than Jun Chennai, but he doesn't even have a chance to compete with Jun Chennai. Now, after finally waiting for something like this to happen to Jun Chen, he originally thought it was God's will, God's arrangement for Jun Xianyan to shine. But who would have thought that Jun Chennai would still have to stand up for everything after something like this happened? He doesn't really believe that all of this is Jun Chennai's own achievements. He is just an actor who sings and dances in the entertainment industry. What does he know and what can he use to compete with him? What's even more interesting is that even Jun Liangjin, whom I have never looked down upon, has achieved extraordinary results. He was the only one who was defeated in the crucial battle for the successor. The appointed date was about to arrive, and he could no longer wait like this and wait for death. I asked you to find someone to investigate Jun Chennai, what's the result? Jun Xianyan turned to look at his assistant with a cold face. The assistant stepped forward tremblingly, wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and then said, "President, young Master Jun has indeed not committed any overreaching behavior. He is just doing business peacefully." After hearing this result, Jun Xianyan suddenly threw the most beautiful teacup beside him, and the fine porcelain fell to the ground with a crisp sound. Jun Xianyan's temples were so angry that he didn't believe it. Jun Xianyan is the proud man of heaven and a business wizard, while Jun Chennai is just a loser who has lost his limelight. Jun Xianyan's eyes darkened, he lowered his voice and said to himself, "Didn't that Jun Chennai say that his mental state is unstable? Since everyone thinks so, it might as well just sit down and sit down." In the Jun family, only Jun Xianyan knows that Jun Chennai is not crazy at all, he is very good, he is still an ambitious beast, ready to explode at any time. However, if he goes along with the flow and takes advantage of Jun Chennai's so-called unstable mental state, then he can destroy Jun Chennai with his own hands. Jun Chennai is not worthy at all, and he is not worthy to compete with him, Jun Xianyan. Jun Chennai came home late at night, saw the chaos on the ground, and smelled the strong smell of alcohol in the house. Finally, he followed the dregs of the glass bottle and found Rong Ci in the corner. Rong Ci's hair was a mess and his eyes were dull, like a walking zombie without soul and thoughts. Jun Chennai approached him and frowned, "Rong Ci, what's wrong with you?" A few days ago, he was still showing off his affection in front of his eyes, saying that he was a golden single and wanted to share his happiness with the whole world. Why did he suddenly become so sloppy and lonely today? Sanskrit is gone. Rong Ci's voice has become hoarse, and it is difficult to even speak. But Jun Chennai still clearly heard the words, "The Sanskrit sound is gone." Jun Chennai was stunned for a moment. Where can she go? Why should she leave? End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1008. Chapter 1008. Mask Couple. Rong Ci did not answer, but kept repeating, "Sang Ian is gone." No matter what Jun Chennai said, there was no way to comfort him. His whole person had completely collapsed with the departure of Fanyan. Jun Chennai had no choice but to let Rong Si huddle under the table and feel sad. Jun Chennai didn't know why Fanyan left, but some time ago Jun Chennai overheard the chat between Fanyan and Rongkai. She seemed to be being hunted on the road. Her head was worth $1 million. She left probably because she didn't want to involve Rong Si. Fanyan has been on the road for so many years, and he is well aware of the storms on this road, and also knows how much darkness is hidden in it. She and Rong Si would not be happy together. They could only spend the rest of their lives on the run and wandering around. In order to protect Rong Si, she had to leave him. And once you leave, you're gone forever. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng heard the news from Jun Chennai and didn't know what to say. Rong Si and Fanyan, a pair of hard-luck Mandarin ducks, I wonder if they will have the fate to meet again in the future. Yu Lingfeng sat on the sofa with a sullen face, seeming to be thinking about something. Xia Ying noticed something strange about Yu Lingfeng, so she moved forward, hugged Yu Lingfeng's arm, and rested her chin on Yu Lingfeng's shoulder. Yu Lingfeng's glazed eyes moved, and when they fell on Xia Ying, they were exceptionally soft. Yu Lingfeng, what are you thinking about? Xia Ying stared at Yu Lingfeng with her obsidian eyes. I was thinking that Fanyan was wanted by the entire underworld for killing one of their Kincha killers. I killed 3 of their Kincha people that day, and they would definitely not let me go so easily. Xia Ying paused, then, what should I do? Yu Lingfeng stretched out his hand, took Xia Ying's hand, and smiled lightly, it's okay, they won't be my opponents, they will just be a little troublesome. Xia Ying nodded suddenly and looked away. Yu Lingfeng looked at Xia Ying in his arms, and his gentle eyes suddenly changed color. He was not afraid of that group of people, but he was afraid that those people would do something to Xia Ying. Although Xia Ying has a poisonous insect, it can't last long, and the harm caused by the poisonous insect is too great. Therefore, before that group of people appeared, Xia Ying had to stay with herself, in the castle. Just over there at the school. Yu Lingfeng sighed slightly, he could only be on guard. Xia Ying now lives in the castle with Yu Lingfeng, which is very far away from Imperial University. Every time, she has to go to school 1 day in advance. And every time, Yu Lingfeng would accompany Xia Ying. Yu Lingfeng held Xia Ying's purple skull bag in her hand and walked side by side on the Suiwen Road with Xia Ying. This road was filled with students from various universities, and Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng were particularly eye-catching as they walked together. Ah, I saw that couple wearing masks again. This exclamation reached Xia Ying's ears, but it sounded strange. Mask couple? Probably because she and Yu Lingfeng were wearing masks every time they appeared. Originally I was a fan of Xia Ran, but because I liked the mask couple so much, I voted for Xia Ying in the National Goddess election. Maybe I am a fake fan. Me too, this couple is super cute. I was still a fan of the chivalrous couple at first, but then I was attracted by the official quota. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1009. Chapter 1009, Draw the Sword Out of its Scabbard, Young Master Jun returns. Yu Lingfeng's hearing is better than ordinary people. After hearing these words, he tested his head with a dark face and asked Xia Ying, you humans really like to talk about others. Xia Ying laughed after hearing this is called gossip. Don't people on your planet gossip? Won't. Yu Lingfeng shook his head. That would be so boring. Xia Ying could hear some descriptions of her planet from Yu Lingfeng every day, which left Xia Ying with the feeling that Yu Lingfeng and his planet were very boring. No wonder Yu Lingfeng had always been cold to others. Sure enough, it has a lot to do with the living environment. After Xia Ying arrived at the dormitory, she was pulled by Yeziaksun. Yeziaksun told Xia Ying with excitement, Xiao Ying, I want to tell you an inside message. Good. Xia Ying nodded, and Yeziaksun's eyes lit up with excitement. He was breathing heavily when he spoke. The hand holding Xia Ying's hand trembled uncontrollably, making Xia Ying's whole body tremble with her. Jun Chennai is coming back. At this time, someone in the dormitory building outside shouted. Yeziaksun's excitement immediately disappeared. He cursed with a dark face, who is so annoying? Why do you want to block me? Tanguo smiled from the side and said, Xiaoxun, didn't you say this was inside information? Mu Niankai slowly raised her phone and said, Jun Chennai posted on Weibo a minute ago, so it is already known to everyone. At this time, Xia Ying saw people outside the window throwing things downstairs. When she walked over, she realized that it was Jun Chennai's chocolates who were too excited, so everyone started throwing things downstairs. That scene, Xia Ying was reminded of the end of the college entrance examination. Xia Ying looked at the densely falling objects like falling snow outside, and laughed as she looked at them. He knew that Jun Chennai would come back, but Jun Chennai was 21 years old now. After the new year, he would 22. Xia Ying still remembers what happened in her last life. Now, the time is getting closer and closer. Jun Chennai posted on Weibo, confirming that he will come back next year as a New Year's gift to his fans, and at that time, a brand new album will also be released, which will be a compensation for his fans during his break. This good news has shocked not only Jun Chennai's fans, but also the entire entertainment industry. Master Jun is so beautiful. We all missed him during his retirement, so he is still preparing an album to repay his fans when he comes back. Mom, what a fairy I am. As a fan of Mr. Jun, I have always been proud. Our Mr. Jun is one of the top 10 outstanding entrepreneurs this year. Find out who is the all-rounder Mr. Jun who is so lucky to marry him. Master Jun, we are waiting for you, and we are also waiting for your Fengjueli. After Chu Sensio saw Weibo, he sent a message to Jun Chennai, Xiajun, why are you announcing your comeback at this time? Chu Sensio remembered that Jun Chennai said that he would first settle his family's affairs before returning to the entertainment industry. At least, let's take back the position of successor first. But today he suddenly announced his comeback. When he opened all the software and web pages, there was a big blockbuster message, draw the sword out of the sheath, Mr. Jun is back. Jun Chennai replied slowly, just go and look at the list of national male idols and you will understand. Chu Sensio was confused and clicked on the list he never paid attention to. The first one, Jun Chennai. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1010. Chapter 1010, The Top 10 People Who Moved Country S. Jun Chennai knocked down Jian Yin's, who was temporarily first. Not only that, in just over an hour, his votes exceeded Jian Yin's by half. Jian Yin's, I'm afraid I won't be able to catch up in my lifetime. Chu Sensio twitched his lips, Jun Chennai is a monster. Jun Chennai, this vain monster. Jun Chennai sent a voice message, saying in an angry tone, the national male can only be me, Jun Chennai. No new works have been released in more than a year, and he is completely isolated from the entertainment industry, but a Weibo post saying I will come back next year can get him all kinds of publicity and praise online, and he can immediately crush all kinds of new and established actors and traffic niches. And by the way, several social software crashed. Only he, Jun Chennai, was so popular. You are cruel. Chu Sensio returned. Jun Chennai then slowly and leisurely replied to Chu Sensio, it's you can't keep your place on the list of country S. Chu Sensio raised his eyebrows. He had never paid attention to this. he just took a look at it at the beginning and found that he was still firmly in the first place. Therefore, he took it for granted that he was guaranteed to win the first place this time. What Jing Jun Chennai I said made Chu Sensio feel a sense of crisis. Chu Sensio ran to the S-country interface and took a look. Damn it, he was surpassed. Why are his little tweeters so ineffective? Although he has not been in country S for many years, how can he be surpassed? Chu Sensio turned to the list and took a look. The person who surpassed him was none other than his own brother. Isn't his brother always faceless? How could he surpass him when he was so low-key? Later, Chu Sensio spent a long time on the website of Country S, and found out that it was because his brother had won the top 10 people who moved Country S some time ago. The reason is also very simple. The new drugs developed by the team led by his brother have saved millions of patients and brought hope and good news to countless families. So even if he never shows up and is just hidden in the shell of a name, he is still the national male in the hearts of the people of Country S. Chu Shenming is really great, a genius. Chu Sensio, well, he did admit this. Wulai Xiu's brother's twin brother, his appearance must not be much different. Chu Sensio, no, we share the same face. Chu Shenming is truly a male god. Chu Sensio, you also praised me like this back then. After Chu Shenming came back, Chu Sensio ran over and asked Chu Shenming, brother, when did you go to receive the award that touched the top 10 people in Country S? Why didn't I know about it at all? Chu Shenming just slowly sorted out the books he had just bought from the bookstore and placed them in his study room by category. He had no intention of paying attention to Chu Sensio, who was squeaking and noisy like a parrot next to him. Brother, you should say something. Chu Sensio pulled Chu Shenming's sleeve, and Chu Shenming raised his eyes and looked at him. I just stopped by to receive the award. I have nothing to say. After Chu Shenming finished speaking calmly, he took out another book from the bookshelf, sat down, and prepared to study it carefully. Chu Sensio sat next to Chu Shenming. Brother, the netizens in Country S are now praising you to the sky. In an unusually perfunctory tone, she didn't even raise her head to look at him. Chu Sensio held his head with his hands and looked at Chu Shenming, his eyelids drooping. Brother, being your younger brother is so stressful. End of this chapter.